Hi, I'm Ben Neal, the digital producer at Birmingham Open Media, better known as BOM, and I'm here to give you an introduction to the essential creative technologies. So today we're going to be talking about the Arduino. Now, an Arduino looks a little bit similar to Raspberry Pi if you saw that video. It's a small microcontroller, which is basically an electronic brain, sort of like a computer that you can program to do whatever you want. And they range a lot in price, from fairly cheap to around sort of £50 perhaps, and you can make electronic devices and gadgets with them. So the key features of this are, this is a Leonardo model. They have a couple of rows of headers which you can attach using wires and jumper leads to sensors. You can get very small Arduinos, like this one, the Nano, so that's a very small one, and you can get much more powerful, bigger ones. This is an Arduino Mega, which has got more processing power. They have a USB port, so you can plug them into the computer, and then you program them using C or C++ programming languages to do what you want them to do. So you plug them into a computer to program them and then upload that code onto the board. The Arduino project is open source hardware, which means you get clones or kind of knockoff versions, which are often a bit cheaper. So a lot of them, I think this is one from China, that was only about £4, and they're often as good as the real thing. This is an official branded one, that was more like £15–20. They all do slightly different things, so look into one that you think is appropriate for your project. They work a lot with electronic components, but they don't really do video very well. So if you want to work with video or audio, you might be better off using a Raspberry Pi or something different. We use software, the Arduino IDE, which is Integrated Development Environment, to program on a computer and then upload the software onto the board. There are already lots of libraries written to do things like send information back to the computer, or to use a particular sensor or LED light that have been written already, so you can use those and kind of use those as a start point for your own projects. So one of the things that you're going to need to be able to do to use an Arduino is probably to solder. So this is a solder iron. You may have seen one before. This gets very hot. You put solder on the end and you use that to solder together electrical components like LED lights, or this is a potentiometer, which is like a dial that you can twist, like you might get on a mixing desk. You can get distance sensors, so this is an ultrasonic sensor that detects distance, a bit like a parking meter, the sort of thing you'd have in a car that beeps when you get too close. Motors can be used as well. LED lights, you can get quite fancy arrays of LED lights now, so this is a grid, and lots of other things. So you can get accelerometers which know which way they've been tilted in space. You can use buttons and switches, and you can also use them as a mouse and keyboard. So the Leonardo in particular works very well. If you plug it into the computer, you can program it to press buttons on your computer when you push a button on your Arduino, things like that. There's lots of other sensors available. PIR sensors are a bit like the alarms that you might have in your home, which when there's movement triggers something off, so you can use those. They're very useful sometimes. And servos, and you can do kind of basic robotic stuff with things moving around in response to the buttons that you press, or perhaps other objects that are detected. There's also a wearables range with Arduino, which is interesting, which are called Lilypad, Flora and Gemma, and they are made to be used so that you can sew them into clothing, and that you can use conductive thread instead of wires. So instead of using these wires, you can kind of like sew in a thread that is conductive. The Arduinos will more often than not run from batteries, so they're very low voltage. So they're a great kit to get your hands dirty with electronics and get started on using sensors and all that kind of stuff, you will probably start out prototyping something on a breadboard. This is a breadboard, and so you put together all your components, and then these components all plug into the these headers of the Arduino. So you plug the brains into the electronic stuff, whether that's motors or lights or whatever it is. So you'll start on probably what they call a breadboard with jumper leads, which is what this is, and you will end up with something that looks probably quite a mess. This is an old project with a nano and some lights, and what it does is it's got a vibrating motor and a touch resistor, a contact mic resistor, which when you stroked a surface set off a kind of vibration and lit up a light as well. So you can make complicated projects, but this is one of the things that will probably be an issue to begin with, is that you need things like resistors and other electrical components in there, and you need to follow tutorials to learn how they work, because if you don't get the circuits right, if you don't build your circuits right, your project often won't work. And that's one of the major problems with starting out with this kind of thing, is that it's quite difficult to work out what's wrong in a circuit if you haven't done an electrical engineering course or something like that, because you have to use a multimeter and things like that to assess what the problem is. So you use one of these devices with these probes to take meter readings of different bits of your circuit, and to know where the electricity is going and if it's the right amount and what the current is and voltage and so on. So that's often a bit of a problem to begin with, but it's great when you do start to understand and know what you're doing. You can get lots of other bits and pieces like touchscreens. This is a tiny touchscreen that you can use and plug into the into a Arduino, and you can also buy shields. So this is an Ethernet port that plugs into the top of one of these, so it just presses right into there and gives you a whole new series of set of functionality. So you can often find shields for Bluetooth and other kind of interfaces. That's really helpful. Arduino is brilliant. I've used it on loads and loads of projects. This one, for example, is a nano that's connected to a microphone, that's connected to an accelerometer, that's connected to a Bluetooth thing, and a capacitive touch as well. So this is the innards of one project that I've done before, and so you can move it around in space. It knows where it is, and you can play musical notes via Bluetooth on a computer that you're connected to. So you can make quite complicated stuff, or you can make very simple stuff, and I would recommend that you follow tutorials very closely to begin with, and it's a great way to get started because of the low cost, but it's got you can imagine all the sorts of things that you could do with lights and motors and sensors and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great place to begin your electrical engineering education. But it can be a bit difficult. There are lots of online resources, lots of books and lots of forums, so I recommend that you make the most of those and take it slowly, but you can get good with some time and effort. So hopefully that's given you some ideas on things that you might want to do. Please click like and subscribe to Bomb's YouTube channel, and ask any questions that you have in the comments below.